So let's move on to stage 2. Stage 2, remember, is converting the prospect into a client. That means they have to actually give you money. And really, the most effective way I've come across for doing this, and the only one that has any significant results, is this. It's a telephone. Why? It's a personal service you give them. You must give people a sense of comfort that you're good at what you do and that you can help them with what they've got. That's what the telephone is for. What's the biggest mistake that people make on the telephone? Any ideas? Say again? Yeah. Actually, the first one is true. They don't answer the phone. If you have a phone, make sure it gets answered. Here's the rule of thumb. If no one answers the phone, you lose the client. If a voicemail answers the phone, you'll lose, say, 8 out of 10 clients. If you yourself answer the phone, you'll probably get 8 out of 10 clients. Which one are you going to do? Now, if you can't get hold of a client yourself, either do a deal with a friend so that they answer your phone whilst you're not there and train them on how to do this. Or if you need to hire a call center, make sure that you train them and then test them out, because they may be good at 1 week and then next week they get a little sloppy. So keep testing them. But have a physical live person answering the call. Make sense? It's really important. Go ahead.
What do you think is better if somebody else answers the phone for me or my person?
Actually, the actual ideal, in my opinion, is if you yourself answer it, because then you can convert them and the people get a connection directly to you. The next best thing is having someone who's good answering the phone on your behalf and building you up as this authoritative figure of mystique and power, etc. And that's great too. There's not a huge amount if the person that you're using is great, but for the most part, someone who isn't really interested in your business isn't going to have the same passion answering it, which is why it ultimately comes down to you. But the other works too as well. Two as well? Jeffrey first. We'll come to you in a second.
I had a problem at one point where I was getting calls when I was working with clients.
Yes, that's a classic problem, which is why at that point you either hire some kind of call center or you can get a private PA. Don't necessarily go to the ones in India because if no one can understand them, that's terrible as well, right? My preference is, and this is what I would do if I went back to London and started opening a thing again, is I was working in a physiotherapy center. That's where my clinic was. So I had girls at reception that I trained to handle the calls. The other thing to do, my sister just had a little baby, so I'd actually ask her to do it. She'd be great at it. And just more time, lots of time on her hands. So this is where a lot of husband and wife teams who run hypnotherapy practice work great. While one person's doing the work, the one's getting the work, and vice versa. It's a great way of learning. I think Philip was first.
Yeah, I have a really good strategy that works for me anyway. Is I tell them that please leave me a message and whatever, I'll call you back within 2 hours.
Okay.
And then when I do that, they have a trust right there.
Right.
He actually called me back.
Sure. And I think it's a great way. If you're going to do a voicemail, that's a great one to do. Just realize that you're still losing more people than are actually leaving a message as a rule of thumb. Because remember, you've got to go back into the mindset of the person that's calling up. They're scared. They're not sure they should be making the call. And now there's this voice thing. And it's like, oh, what's going on here? I don't know. It's better to hang up. That tends to be the thing. I had a voicemail thing that would click on and off when someone called. I can't tell you the amount of clicks that never actually completed the thing that went through. That's really how I learned it. And if you have to use a voicemail, I think that's a great way of doing it. It's just recognize that it's not the ideal situation.
Well, with me, usually the voicemail I leave is that I'm actually with a client at the moment. And I found that actually has been a really good conversion rate.
Great. I mean, experiment. And different areas, these are just rules of thumb. Different areas will be different. You may have a style that works great. You may come up with this killer voicemail message that blows Maya theory out of the water. Who knows? All I can share with you is my experiences, and hope that does a reasonable job with it. So are we all clear with the idea of voicemails in general? I don't want to get into too details in this. We want to get a good overview so you understand all the steps, and then over lunch, dinner, evenings, you can share ideas and swap things and really create a marketing plan for yourselves. I just want you to get a structure in your heads and have that completed.